story begins a few years ago. I was in a very successful real estate career, and I started having some weird symptoms. Some things started happening. I started getting some twitching and some numbing and knee giving out. Odd things that were happening that I just attributed to being overworked, overstressed, too much time at the computer. And I always sort of put my symptoms on hold. And then in 2011, my husband and I followed a dream to move to the sunny south, and we moved down to the San Francisco Bay Area from the cold Canada. And once we moved, I started to see my symptoms increase more and more, and I thought, what is happening? I'm not working at the moment, so the stress has drastically decreased. I'm in the sunny south. Why are these symptoms still here? And basically, I couldn't ignore them any longer. I needed to go to the doctor. And through a time, I was referred to a neurologist, and within a few short weeks in 2012, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. My neurologist recommended I go on some medications that are known to hopefully slow the progression of MS. And I wasn't quick to start taking them. I wanted to do some more research, so she was fine with that. After our first initial consultation, I went home and did some more research. Then I sought out another highly respected doctor in the field of MS in the Bay Area, and again got some second feedback. And I went home and I just wasn't too sure. I was ready to start taking injections every day and all of these things. And so I hesitated, and I went back, and my doctor, the neurologist, she kept wanting to get me on these medicines and saying, you're young, now's the time, we should slow the progression as quick as we can so you can live long and healthy years. And I asked her, is this going to stop symptoms? And the answer was always no, it's not going to stop symptoms, but hopefully prolong your years with less symptoms. So that in itself, I wasn't truly convinced. I wanted to accept that I was going to have symptoms. I didn't want to end up in a wheelchair. I didn't want to end up disabled. I wanted to prevent all symptoms, not just slow the progression of them. So I was an optimist in that way. So I was looking for another avenue, let's say. And so I had been doing some other research on doctors doing a link between nutrition and health and various things you can do to give your body the healing power that it needs to get back the strength and to heal the brain. And so that's where I went. I didn't want to do the medications. A few months after my diagnosis, and I was doing a lot of dietary changes, thought everything was starting to go well. Symptoms were being reduced a little bit, but then one day I woke up and MS showed me how powerful it could be. And let's just say that that was the worst nightmare my husband and I could have ever gone through. I ended up in emergency, and my body was shutting down. And that, again, I like to tell people it was like my brain was malfunctioning. And it was a very scary time, and I saw the true effects of what MS can do. My body was completely weak. I ended up in a wheelchair. Muscles and limbs and things that I had all power for the day before completely had shut down. Vision was gone. There was just everything was malfunctioning. I thought my hard drive in my computer is overloaded and I need to be rebooted. And so here I was being pushed around the hospital in a wheelchair, ended up in an area of the hospital where people are getting chemotherapy treatment. There I am getting IV steroids put in, and the doctor telling me, it'll pass, it'll pass. And I thought, I never, ever want to have to go through this again. It was the worst time, just feeling completely hopeless. And not having the strength to lift yourself out of a chair, and having someone, needing someone to help you with all possible movements in your day, feed you and whatnot, and even the losing the vision, not being able to see right, everything just shutting down. After a couple of weeks, it all subsided and I slowly started to bounce back. I dug deeper and deeper into my research and I just knew there was more I could do. I knew the medications made me completely ill. I did not want to end up on these medications for life, even though the doctors kept saying, it's fine, you can take these medications. I just didn't want to because sometimes the symptoms from the medications were worse than the disease itself. And so having been through that whole process, it empowered me even more to continue on in my pursuit. And it wouldn't be until a few months later that I came across my Dr. McDougall research again, and also reading the China study from Dr. Campbell. All of these resources and tools together made me think, these are the pieces I'm missing. Now, one thing I realized that after getting into the McDougall program, I read his book, The Starch Solution. And it was there that a light bulb went on. I realized I was forgetting something very important in my diet, which is the macronutrient carbohydrates. I was eating all the kale you can imagine and broccoli and berries, and I thought I was doing great. But I was missing carbohydrates, which are a huge fuel for the brain. And my disease was happening in the brain. If there was anything I wanted to do, I wanted to strengthen my brain. So it didn't matter how much kale and green food I was eating, I was missing the carbohydrates. Now, my whole life I was told carbohydrates are wrong. The media was always saying, don't eat carbs, they're bad for you. So I guess when I had made my changes, I still had that mentality, oh, carbs are the big bad food we shouldn't be eating. But when I started to read The Starch Solution and it made more sense to me, I thought, okay, introduce the grains again. Now I was gluten-free, so I was introducing more gluten-free grains, quinoa, millet, rice, amaranth, buckwheat, all sorts of great nutritious grains. And all of a sudden, I had more energy and I started to feel better. So I was eating more grains and more grains, started to introduce more fruits back into my diet instead of limiting them because I was so afraid of the carbs. And as I ate more and more grains, all of a sudden, years of mood swings, years of anxiety issues, and just not feeling like my brain was completely turned on right, and dizzy spells and all of that, it started to subside. Years of insomnia that I'd been battling with were gone. It was so amazing, and that was completely from introducing my grains and my carbohydrate, my starchy rich foods. And I realize now, after doing more research, I was just lacking those critical nutrients that I just wasn't getting enough of from the vegetables. 2 years from the anniversary of me being diagnosed, I went back to my neurologist. We did more testing, more MRIs, and there was absolutely no signs or symptoms of any MS in any of my test results. I had a perfectly healthy brain. There was no reason for my diagnosis. I wish they could undiagnose me and take that label off, but I know in my heart I'm free from MS, and I owe it all to the McDougall program and many phenomenal doctors who've done research on the whole food plant-based diet, like Dr. Campbell and others, that have really impacted me and gave me the power of the food that I could eat and heal my body, give it the strength it needed to heal and eradicate MS completely. I knew I'd been feeling better for many months, but I wanted the proof. And so to see it in the science and to see the previous MRIs and to see the new recent one where there's absolutely no lesion left, there's no signs, the blood flow in the brain is flowing healthy. That was just so exciting to get that final stamp of, yes, what we've been doing has been working, even though we knew it was helping. I knew in my body that these changes were really making an impact. So I walked out of there more empowered to want to share the message with others that you can turn it back. You can stop the clock on MS and other autoimmune diseases for sure if you eat the right food.